So what is going on in gaming? For the second time this week, I've woken up to really bad news because it is now being reported by Tom Warren that Microsoft is laying off 650 people. This sucks, man. This just sucks. There's no two ways about it. We are seeing a constant and awful trend in the world of gaming over the past couple of years where we are constantly seeing people losing jobs and getting laid off. Sometimes very successful companies who release very successful games are still losing jobs. Sometimes companies are losing jobs even before they release their next game. It is mind-boggling. It's very insulting as somebody who's kind of just a regular old guy who works a job, white-collar worker, blue-collar worker, seeing people who I know are putting their blood, sweat, and tears into making products for us to enjoy, and they still can't find any sort of real stability with their employment. This industry has had this problem for a long time, honestly, for decades, you could say. It's felt like a very unstable industry to work within for a very long time, but it certainly feels like over the course of the past, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, just off the top of my head, we've seen layoffs and people losing jobs ramp up at an exponential rate. And now we have one of the biggest companies on planet Earth laying off 650 people from their gaming division, by the way. A mandate or something at least communicated by Phil Spencer to the employees of the company. We're now seeing them do the same thing. And I just think it's a continual bad sign for everything happening in the world of gaming. I'm going to link the full article below, but here's 2 quick snippets from the article from Tom Warren and some of what Phil Spencer has said and communicated to the folks at Microsoft about what's happening. Again, from the article, Xbox chief Phil Spencer announced the layoffs to employees in an internal memo this morning, seen by The Verge, of course. The cuts are related to the Activision Blizzard deal, and Spencer makes it clear in his email that, quote, no games, devices, or experience are being canceled, and no studios are being closed as part of today's layoffs. Some more of what Phil Spencer says is, as part of aligning our post-acquisition team structure and managing our business, we have made the decision to eliminate approximately 650 roles across Microsoft Gaming, mostly corporate and supporting functions, to organize our business for long-term success. Now, I encourage you to go and read the full article because, believe it or not, the entire memo is actually featured in this article. And it really lays out a little bit more of the general messaging that Phil Spencer and or Microsoft are communicating to folks, the teams who are keeping their jobs, the people who are unfortunately losing their jobs. They talk about the severance package and extended healthcare that people losing their jobs are going to get and all this stuff. And, you know, just kind of the corporate mumbo jumbo. And it just speaks to, I think, the larger problem and something that I hate to see in today's gaming industry, where I think the industry, and again, using one of the biggest companies on the planet, forget what industry it's in, just you think of any company on the entirety of Earth, a population of 8 billion people, you've got one of the biggest right here, not able to maintain their staff and maintain the success of their business. We're seeing evidence that this industry, the gaming industry, is just not calibrated properly. That's the only way I can think to describe it. It's the only word I can think that really applies to this. It's one of my favorite words, actually, because it applies to so many different things when you talk about something just not being good. And I think that the companies making video game hardware, the companies making video games, the companies employing people to make these video games, the integration of the internet, stuff that's been kind of stuff I've talked about this week on this channel, I think that there's a miscalibration across the industry in almost every company involved where the games aren't reaching their full potential, the sales aren't reaching their full potential, the hardware isn't being maximized properly, companies aren't maintaining the financials of their business properly enough, no matter how humongous and successful they are, again, like Microsoft, that people can't keep their jobs. All the skills they have, all the degrees in game development and coding or whatever they have, all of the hard work people are putting into making these products. And again, we as the game fans and the consumer, we just get to enjoy the fruits of their labor, man. Think of how many games you get to play a year and how fun this hobby really is. You know, when you play the games that you enjoy, there are people behind it that worked to make it. and business decisions that said, this is the game to make, this is the platform to release it on, now go make it happen, and we get to play and enjoy them. But the people who do this, I can't make a video game, so I'm thrilled that there are thousands and maybe millions of people out there who can make video games for me to play. They make them, and then they lose their jobs. It is so absurdly insulting. Now, there's no sugarcoating it, man. Business is business, and the gaming industry is a business. Microsoft is a business, just like plenty of the other companies I'm about to name that have also had some layoffs recently. And yes, they have to make money. They have to be profitable. There has to be an available bank of funds to pay people their salaries and the money that they earn for doing their jobs. All of that stuff is true. I've been in the corporate structure for some huge, massive companies over the course of the past 12 to 15 years in my own personal career. I'm very close to the corporate world structure and I understand it. And there's a lot of it that I hate. There's some of it that I like, but that's just because I've kind of found a career path that I personally enjoy and have done very well in so far. But it definitely is a broken system no matter what industry you're talking about. And when you see companies like this continue to lay people off, you realize, how can you be a trillion-dollar company like Microsoft, even on the gaming side, but still not make enough money to support your staff? Why are you hiring more people than you need? Or why are you making business decisions that makes it so that your trillions of dollars still don't end up with net profits to pay the people making the things that then in turn make you money? It drives me crazy, but business is business. And so there is that element where, yes, of course, I understand you have to make money to have employees and to have successful gaming products. There's no doubt about that. But it still, in my opinion, comes back to that calibration concept I mentioned, where you have to calibrate your business properly so that you can pay the employees to make the things that makes you money and everyone's profitable and everyone wins and everyone keeps their job. What are you doing so wrong, video game industry, or Microsoft in this case, that you can't maintain a successful business? Now, like I said, part of the larger point here, again, it's more than just Microsoft. It is the industry at large I'm talking about, and why I've seen so many things start to go sideways in the hobby of gaming over the past 5 to 10 years or so. There are other companies that are having layoffs. This is just a stupid growing trend that we've seen, man. Bungie had layoffs when they were recently merged and purchased by Sony. Microsoft shut down Tango Gameworks and let those people go. Bethesda was involved in some layoffs. Ballistic Moon, who's the developer of the upcoming Until Dawn remake remaster, they also laid off people before they even released their upcoming game. That is so absurd. What the hell is going on with this industry and this hobby that so many companies cannot seem to get this right? And unfortunately, so many people keep finding themselves unemployed. You want to talk about a video game crash, something I referenced a few days ago because a lot of people have been talking about that for a while? These are the kinds of things that speak to the video game crash. And I maintain what I said, that a true crash in the sense of the industry like going away forever and crumbling, that's never going to happen. It is, cliched as it is probably too big to fail as an industry, and there's a lot of good with that. I don't think any of us want it to go away, so that's fine. But I do think there are elements of the industry that are crashing and elements that are going to become so unfathomably broken that the industry and these big companies will have to shift, will have to pivot, will have to change up what they're doing. And a lot of the end result products that I think companies in this industry strive for will probably be lowered in terms of their scope and scale and maybe even quality, because eventually the financials are going to force these companies to change what they're doing. Otherwise, they will all go out of business. And then, yeah, the industry in theory would totally crash. So with Microsoft, we come back to them and this 650 people that they're laying off, right? And that Phil Spencer has now communicated to. We got to talk about the fact that, by the way, Phil Spencer recently came out, literally like a week or so ago, and had a quote about how he's admitted that he's made some of the worst decisions in the business of gaming, in his career. He's made some good decisions. I actually really do tend to like Phil Spencer a lot, but he's definitely made some good decisions and he's made some really bad decisions. And Microsoft's business has been struggling since the Xbox One, right? Which, to be fair, was Don Matrick's regime and his mandate, not Phil Spencer's. But Microsoft has never really recovered from that over the course of 2 generations. And Phil Spencer is like, I tweeted about this morning. Who knows how much money Phil Spencer makes? He's got to be a millionaire. Other people in his orbit, that C-suite orbit of the Microsoft world, make so much money compared to a lot of probably the regular folks with 50 to 80 or 90K jobs a year. And he says, I've made all these bad business decisions in the world of gaming. And now the result of some of that is to lose more people. Not to cut your salary, not for people at Phil Spencer's level who are less people making a larger amount of money responsible for the decisions losing the company money. Those people aren't being affected, but all of the regular folks with regular jobs and regular salaries, they're the ones paying the price for the decisions Phil Spencer and other people at his level are making. That drives me crazy. And so I'm sorry, I have to be honest about this. I think one of the many things leading to some of the troubles with Microsoft, yes, they say that this is related to the Activision Blizzard merger, and I think that that is true. Maybe you didn't need to spend $70 goddamn billion on this company just to do whatever the hell you're going to do with it, just to have Call of Duty on Game Pass, whatever your motivation was. But that's also a segue to the other thing. I'm sorry, you guys, Game Pass. Game Pass, to the end consumer, is absolutely a good value. I will never deny that, and I have been a Game Pass subscriber in the past. But Game Pass has always been very transparently bad for business and bad for the gaming industry at large. It has never been a mystery to me, and there is no doubt in my mind that between wasting $70 billion on Activision Blizzard and the Game Pass business model as the central core focus of the Xbox gaming brand. These two things combined are the reason why the business is flailing, not making money, and why they're laying off more people despite being part of a $1 trillion company and a very famous brand. The Xbox brand is a famous, popular, successful brand historically, but they can't make it work, and the introduction of Game Pass, to me, absolutely was bad for their business. You will never be able to convince me that a platform where people are paying whatever it is, like $280 a year, actually it recently got up, or it recently went up in price, excuse me. So I don't currently know, and I am not a Game Pass subscriber. I don't subscribe to any of the 3 console services right now, by the way, because I just don't think it's worth it, and it's a matter of principle until Monster Hunter Wilds comes out, and I need to resubscribe to PlayStation Plus. That's going to be the next time I do for Monster Hunter Wilds. So whatever the cost of Xbox Game Pass just went up to for consoles, I know it's different for the PC Game Pass. It went up, so it's whatever, $250, $300 a year, whatever it is, $15, $16, $20 a month. You'll never convince me that people subscribing to that service monthly and yearly is going to support all of the games that you don't have to pay to own. And we're obviously talking all digital games, by the way, so it's bad for the physical games market in that respect. But there's no way that Microsoft is making more money than they're spending to support the Game Pass infrastructure and to make a lot of their biggest and best first-party games available for no extra cost on that platform. Not to mention the fact that third-party companies and other companies whose games become available on Game Pass, especially the ones day one, because some games are, to be fair, they're available for purchase for a while, and then eventually they become available on Game Pass for no extra cost. But a lot of them also day one games, right? So I don't know how the economics of those companies whose games are made available on Game Pass themselves are making money. Who is really making money? And by money, I really mean profit. Who is coming out in the positive due to Game Pass? Now, again, you could say the consumer and the gamer, because as I already mentioned, there is no doubt that to the end consumer who is fine not owning their games and is fine with digital games and doesn't really care about a lot of this stuff and maybe even wants to save money in a certain way. I still think it's too expensive. Game Pass is more expensive than owning your games, but there's a perception where it isn't. So to the end consumer, there is a value. The gamer who likes and pays for Game Pass and uses it, they're the ones coming out in the positive. But the companies who need to make money to support their business and keep people employed, Microsoft, there's no way any of these companies are coming out positively. And that's why I think, again, $70 billion for Activision Blizzard and also Game Pass being such a focus on top of still having to manufacture hardware like Xboxes. I just don't see how that business model, which is the core focus of their business model, is actually supporting Microsoft and Xbox gaming as a company, as a division of Microsoft. It just makes no sense. And so, look, I have a little bit of a bias because I'm anti-digital games, anti-subscription services, and I'm not like anti-Game Pass as much as I am just not a fan of Game Pass and not a subscriber to Game Pass, because again, I see the value to a lot of certain kinds of people, but I don't think it's a good business model. So in that sense, I'm against Game Pass. So maybe I have these biases filtering this a little bit, but I think from a business lens, and I have talked a lot about business lenses this week on this channel, I just think Game Pass is a huge reason why Xbox is struggling and why 650 people sadly just lost their jobs. And so to wrap this up, this industry and this hobby just frustrates the hell out of me, man. It sucks. It just all sucks because I love it and I hate it at the same time. I love it because I'm a game fan. I mentioned this week on a video. I've been gaming since the early 80s. I was playing an Atari 2600 before the NES even released into the world. That's how old I am. That's how long I've been gaming. I've gone on this journey of this industry throughout the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, into today. I've seen its best highs. I've seen its worst lows. I think we're in one of the worst lows. I don't think there's a whole lot of good things happening this generation, sadly, and in the current years. And it really frustrates me to see the really bad state the gaming industry has gotten to. So I love it, and I want to see it do better. I want to see people keep their jobs. I want to see these companies make better products and deliver on their promises and not scam and gouge the consumer. And I said this earlier, the internet made things worse, all these different things. And so it frustrates me that this industry sucks. And Tango Gameworks can release Hi-Fi Rush that people love and support and buy and reviews well, but it's part of Game Pass. And then Microsoft shuts that company down. And that Ballistic Moon can fire and lay off people before they release their game. And Microsoft can be a $1 trillion company, one of the biggest on planet Earth, and still have to lay off 650 people because they can't calibrate their business properly. They're throwing around billions of dollars to purchase unneeded companies like it's nobody's business. They have a Game Pass model that is horrendously unhealthy for their business and for gaming at large. And so who pays the price? The regular people working for the company, not the millionaire C-suite folks who make these decisions, tank their business, but they still get to walk away with all their money and keep their jobs. And again, Microsoft, as I listed in this company, is not the only company guilty of this. They're just the one kicking off this story in my conversation about it today. So yeah, this industry and this hobby sucks, man. Gaming sucks. It's so pessimistic. I've been pessimistic twice this week, and I hate to do so. But the news is the news. The PS5 Pro is the news, and it sucks. Microsoft laying off people is the news, and it sucks. I can't change that. I didn't make these stories. I'm just discussing the stories as they are. And they're both two examples of an industry getting worse and worse, greedier and greedier, and incapable of doing the right pro-consumer and pro-employee things. In an industry as big as the gaming industry, multi-billion dollars, bigger than it's ever been, bigger than movies, bigger than music, bigger than anything. When you have the biggest companies in the industry laying off people because they can't calibrate their business properly, it's broken. It is bad. And it has to be fixed. And I sure can't pretend to know how to fix it. I'm just a guy who likes these games, and I appreciate every single person who makes a video game that I enjoy. And I think you all deserve to keep your jobs so you can continue doing what you're doing, support yourselves, support your families, and make more games for me to play. I want you all to make more games. And I know I talked about how I was happy that Concord's business model was a failure. And I think that the PlayStation 5's business model, or PlayStation 5 Pro's business model, needs to be a failure. And I clarified this. Not the people making these things. They're directed by their companies to make these products, and they just did their job, and they did a damned fine job. They should not suffer. But these business models are harmful. And so, yes, I'm cheering for anti-consumer business models and game structures to fail. But I am not rooting for people following the directors of their companies to fail. It's people like Phil Spencer and the heads and CEOs and presidents of these companies making these bad decisions that they deserve to pay the price for things not going well, like Concord or a PS5 Pro or Game Pass or buying Activision Blizzard. Those folks should pay the price, not the regular everyday people just doing their jobs as they're told to do. So, another rant this week. I think this will be my last one for a while. God, I hope. Please, gaming industry, don't make me get pissed off on camera again. I don't want to. I want to be excited. Got a bunch of good games coming out at the end of the month, man. Zelda comes out. The Starfield DLC comes out, which I'm very excited for. Silent Hill 2 Remake in the beginning of October. I cannot freaking wait. Epic Mickey Rebrushed is a game I'm excited for. I've tweeted about all these things. I just finished Astrobot, damn near a 10 out of 10 masterpiece. One of the best games I've played in the last 20 years. Astrobot is amazing. There are good things happening. There are games to play. There are things I love about everything. We got Metroid Prime 4 not that long ago. Are you kidding me? That is giving me life. It's amazing. But then we get shit like this. And we get shit like the PS5 Pro. So, okay. No more rants. You guys know how I feel. Talk about it below. I'm done. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.